Hello and welcome back for part 2 of my James Bond Special Edition DVDs. We're looking them over today. As I've said in the first part, this is my favorite edition of the James Bond films that they put out. Just as far as the artwork and the presentation and everything. We had went from VHS tapes of cropped versions to VHS tapes of widescreen versions to DVDs. And the original DVD editions look good, but they mostly had the mono soundtracks. I don't remember the first editions having any upgraded or remastered soundtracks on them. So these special editions had a lot of extra work put into them. MGM did an outstanding job. Whoever worked on these projects, if you're out there and watching this, you did an outstanding job on these editions. They are still my favorite. I did buy the DTS remasters because I wanted better sounding copies of especially the earlier ones. But some of the prints, some of the visual presentations on those DTS versions were far superior to the original DVDs that came out. So as I bought the earlier ones and watched them, it really encouraged me to buy the later ones and replace these. But I just couldn't replace these because the artwork on those was not nearly as good as these special editions. So the DTS are there for me to watch, and these special editions are there for me to look at, because as I've already mentioned, I do a lot of browsing. My living room is like a video store to me, and I can spend countless hours just looking through my shelves and looking at the booklets and remembering the films and thinking about them. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this YouTube channel, is share all this with the world and document it for my own sake, so I can sit on the comfort of the couch and browse my DVD collection someday. Not quite yet, but someday I may have all this documented successfully and well enough that. But I don't think I'll ever stop as long as I'm standing and walking and talking. I don't think I'll ever stop browsing my DVD shelves. So this was Thunderball. This was the first film that was actually filmed, in scope. Like I said, the first three were filmed in 1:6:6:1. That's what the original widescreen VHS tapes were. And now we've reached my favorite one. You only live twice. Or so someone says. If you're James Bond, you live a lot more times than that. Yeah. I don't know why this is my favorite. Maybe because I like Donald Pleasance. Maybe because of the quirky character he played in it. Maybe this was just one that I saw earlier on. For whatever reasons that I can't explain, this is my favorite Bond film. Now the discs weren't all spectacular. Yeah, it's got some nice font work, but there's no real pictures or anything extra special about the discs. But okay, I see. Yeah, we're all right here. Trying to get things lined up and straight and square so you can get a good look at them. And these pamphlets, they're like the day I got them. They're brand new. I try to take care of my stuff. I trying to bend the seam a little bit there so I can get them on the table flat, but it just goes to show you how good of condition my collection is. If I bought it brand new, it's going to be in like new condition on the shelf. I take care of things. It's really amazing to me how some people don't care about the stuff that they own and the stuff that they buy, and they just toss things around. And we're all different, aren't we? Some of us just really like to keep our stuff looking brand new, and I'm one of those. Now, I've got plenty of DVDs in my collection that are not in mint condition, but that's because the last few years I've really started being able to buy a lot of these used for just dirt cheap, with streaming taking over and people, having limited space. I think that's a big part of it too. You got 14,000 DVDs the way I do, you take some space. I don't have enough space. I reached the one in, one out on the shelves years ago. Now that's a really nice shot. That's cool. And the wife won't let me put any more shelves in the house, so I've been boxing things up, moving them out to the shed the last few years, which is kind of sad. I actually need to go through all my boxes and take some photographs so I know what's in what box, because I know what I have and I know what's out there, but I don't always know which box to look in when I'm trying to find something. And then Sean Connery was busy with another project, and for some insane reason they weren't willing to wait for him, so we got John Lazenby doing On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which was actually the 6th James Bond film. And I like George. He did good. He deserved to get more. And I really don't know all the details, off the top of my head. I've heard them. I've heard the stories, and I know why Sean Connery didn't do this film, but I just don't come to mind right away. There's so many documentaries on all of these DVDs that it's been covered, I assure you. Yeah. But George did this one, and then Sean came back. I think he was contractually obligated, but he came back to do Diamonds Are Forever. Now, he did do the Never Say Never Again much later, much later, but it was not an official James Bond film. I do keep it in my collection with my other James Bond films, but it is not considered an official part of the canon. And I did go to the theaters and saw that one upon its release, and I did enjoy it. It is kind of silly. Some of the Bonds did get silly. That's just part of the fun. This one was one of the more serious titles, more serious films. I'm assuming that you're familiar with James Bond's, but if you don't want any, what do they call it, when you give away the film, if you don't want any spoilers, then don't listen to the next thing I'm about to say, because this was the film where James Bond got married. And moments later, they just didn't give this guy a chance to enjoy life at all. Moments later, she ends up dead. And that was Diana Riggs, by the way. She's famous for doing the Avengers. Not the Avengers that younger generations familiar with came out of the Marvel universe, but rather the Avengers that was on British television in the 60s. And she did a number of other films. She had a successful career, but her start was with the Avengers, I believe, and it was definitely her big claim to fame if it wasn't her start. But she's the woman that actually got James Bond to the altar. She didn't get to enjoy much of a honeymoon, but she did get him to say I do and put a ring on her finger. So, and I really thought it was interesting in the very beginning days of DVD who comes up with the titles for all of these chapters. That would be interesting to know, because that was one of the things me and my best friend at the time when DVDs came out would do, would be get the DVD and open it up and pull that booklet out and see what all the chapters were labeled, you know. Yeah, what did they call this? What did they call that? Sometimes it can give away the storyline, or at least a good part of it. And hopefully we can wrap this up here reasonably quick, because we're running close to time on the episode. Depending on how much you watched my channel, you know I absolutely try hard to keep my episodes under 12 minutes. I've read that YouTube has limitations on uploads, 15 minutes maximum in the beginning. Who knows if this channel is going to be successful, take off, so I have to try anyways to keep these under 12, which is giving me 45 seconds to finish going through this booklet, which means we're going to have to speed it up a little, and you're going to have to do a little more pausing and possibly skipping back to read things. I think I left that long enough. Let's get here. It's like kind of a race against time for me to get this episode in under my desired time lot. And it's going to be close, so I'm pretty much going to tell you guys goodbye right here. And we'll see you on the next one.